Is it the power in his hands? Is it his quest for glory? Give it all you got to fight to the top, so we can know your story. Now you're a man.
Hello, it's me again, Alex, and I'm here to review another role-playing game. And this one is actually the one I mentioned in my last video, called Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu. This is the original. There are like several iterations of the book that utilize different systems of play. One of which is Call of Cthulhu D20, which uses a D20 system that Dungeons and Dragons uses. I've played that one a couple times, but this one is this one works off of what's called the basic role-playing system. I'll get into that later, but I just want to explain the theme of Call of Cthulhu, which is probably the most important part of the game. Call of Cthulhu is not Dungeons and Dragons by any means. In Dungeons and Dragons, you create a character. This character grows, becomes stronger throughout the trials and tribulations of whatever. Call of Cthulhu, you create a character, and that's, for the most part, the character that you create at the beginning of the game, that's the character that you have. Excuse me. Whereas Dungeons and Dragons, you grow, you get stronger, you fight unbelievable things like dragons and fucking, in some cases, gods and shit. Call of Cthulhu, you can encounter a god in Call of Cthulhu, but if you do, you're fucked. That's it. It is a horror game, like World of Darkness that I reviewed before. It's a horror game, but in a very niche horror genre, which is, I think they refer to it as cosmic horror. It's obviously heavily based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft. And H.P. Lovecraft is an exceptional writer. Had some weird ideas and notions of race and class in his head when he was alive, but he was an excellent writer. And the game draws on his universe that he was primarily responsible for creating in his works, as well as other writers such as Clark Ashton Smith and August Derleth, I think that's how you pronounce it. But the overriding theme in this game is that you are a normal person who may be very erudite in certain areas or fields, but overall you're not a badass. In fact, the preferred character build in Call of Cthulhu most, I would say, at least for me, is someone with a high intelligence and who is well educated. Because the more intelligent you are and the more educated you are, the more skill that you will have at your disposal. The enemies that are presented in the game, they range from like animals, things that you could come upon in a survivalist situation that you'd have to kill or something like that, to supernatural beings. And I mean, World of Darkness has supernatural beings in it, and I do think I mentioned before that you can die really easily in the game. I would say more so in Call of Cthulhu, can you die pretty easily. In fact, when I was playing in the game that my friend was running, I died fairly quickly and unceremoniously. I believe we were in a clearing in a forest. My character was he had like a PhD in chemistry and biology or something, and he was a very intelligent, scholarly character. He was not made for fighting, and I was like, oh, I see it, and I started like circumventing it, and then the other characters came, and they were more inclined for violence and fighting. So I was like, you know what? I'll check this thing out, assuming stupidly that my companions would follow me. They didn't. Um, the tree turned out to be a living creature whose branches suddenly turned into tentacles and grabbed me and squeezed the life out of me until I was dead. Fortunately for me, the GM, my friend, was kind enough to have the tree then throw my lifeless body to my compatriots who revived me through CPR or whatever method they used in the game. But the point is that victory in Call of Cthulhu is either bittersweet or non-existent. Usually it's non-existent. You go and you have a sanity stat. It's like anything else. It's like strength and stuff like that, except it starts at usually it's pretty high at the beginning, like 84 or something like that. But the more you come into contact with supernatural beings, the more sanity you're going to lose. And the more sanity that you lose, the more likely it'll be that you go permanently insane. And that's the portion of where the game, well, the game actually has a section on it where time to make another character because that one's fucked. So you go back, you make another character, blah blah blah. But we weren't really up for that, so we just did it our way, and he MacGuffined me back to life, basically. Now that there's there's some people who would say, well, why is that a fun game if you can't win it? Well, I mean, there are minor victories to be had in the game. It's very interesting subject matter. And it's very interesting situations that your characters can find themselves in the first place. Call of Cthulhu is about discovery, not about winning. So I would say that it involves a lot of just a lot of imagination and a lot of interest in what's happening at that moment. The basic role-playing system is, excuse me again, unlike the D20 system and the dice pool system that World of Darkness uses, in that you have a list of skills, and next to those skills there are percentiles. Percentiles are basically the chance that you have of succeeding at a certain activity based on what skill most is parallel to that activity. So if you have an 80% in biology, which is what I had, and you were maybe dissecting a cadaver of some kind, that could be a biology check. You roll the dice, 2d10s, one of which is this one, which has one number on it, the other of which is this one, which has two numbers on it. That's a percentile roll. If you roll above the 80%, you fail. If you roll below the 80%, you pass. That's basically how it manifests itself. How the chance that you will pass, and it can be quite restricting for the character and the DM, because not all the skills necessarily run parallel with what the players want to do. In this sense, World of Darkness is a lot easier. However, just the subject matter and the way this game presents the story is so interesting and different than any other role-playing game that you could possibly play. And being that your characters are, for the most part, ineffectual, it adds to the horror because there's almost nothing you can do. In fact, your successes are, by and large, accidental. Like, mine were mostly accidental successes that I had in the game. But it really gives you a sense of accomplishment if you win. If you win. But that's my game for now. I noticed the last video ran a little long, so I'm going to try and cut it short here. I highly recommend Call of Cthulhu. Really good game, and very interesting.
Oh yeah, it's like Seminary, baby. Back up in that motherfucking ass. One time for your motherfucking mind. We represent the 313. You know what I'm saying? Yo, they don't know shit about this. For the 9-6. Hey yo, my pen and paper cause a chain reaction to get your brain relaxing. A zaniac, the maniac in action. A brainiac, in fact, son. You mainly lack attraction. You look insanely whack when just a fraction of my tracks run. My rhyming skills got you climbing hills. I travel through your mind into your spine like siren drills. I'm slamming grills of roaches with spray to disinfects and twisting necks of rappers to this spinal column disconnects. With this index, inject the monologue. Turn your system up, twist them up and indulge in the marijuana smoke. This is the